Jasmine was driving home from a double shift, hair tied back, scrubs wrinkled, eyelids heavy. She was just 2 blocks from her small apartment when she saw it. A blur. A boom. And then smoke. A black SUV had swerved off the road, slammed into a concrete barrier, and was now half wrapped around a light pole, steam hissing from under the hood. Without thinking, Jasmine slammed on the brakes. No hesitation. No backup. She jumped out, sprinted toward the wreckage as other cars kept driving past. Inside, 2 men, one dazed, one unconscious and bleeding. The driver's side door was crushed in, but the passenger's was just barely open. Jasmine crawled in, checked for a pulse, stabilized the man's neck with her arm, and began CPR. Come on, stay with me! She didn't know his name. Didn't care who he was. She worked purely on instinct, counting compressions, listening for breath, ignoring the blood soaking into her sleeves. By the time EMTs arrived, the unconscious man had a heartbeat again. The paramedics took over, loaded him up, and one of them looked back at Jasmine and said, "You just saved his life." She nodded once, hands shaking, then walked back to her car, heart racing. She didn't know it then. But that man in the SUV wasn't just anyone. He was Grant Whitaker, a millionaire CEO known for staying out of the spotlight. And everything in Jasmine's life was about to change. That night, Jasmine sat on her worn-out couch, legs tucked under a thrift store blanket, trying to decompress. The adrenaline had worn off, but the images hadn't. The blood. The stillness. The weight of a life in her hands. Then her phone buzzed. Breaking news. Tech CEO Grant Whitaker in critical condition after car crash in Midtown. Jasmine's breath caught. She clicked the article. The photo confirmed it. The same man she'd pulled from the SUV. Same jawline. Same watch. Same unconscious, broken figure she'd fought to keep breathing. Grant Whitaker. Worth hundreds of millions. Founder of a healthcare tech company. Private. Media shy. Rumored to be building a hospital system that didn't suck the life out of its nurses. And she had saved him. No security. No assistance. No fancy entourage. Just him, bleeding and helpless, depending on a stranger in scrubs who happened to be driving home from the worst shift of her month. A video started circulating, grainy phone footage from a bystander. You couldn't see Jasmine's face clearly, but her voice was unmistakable. "Keep breathing, stay with me." The internet loved it. "Anonymous nurse saves mystery man." "Guardian angel in scrubs." Hashtags flew. Jasmine turned her phone face down. She didn't save him for likes. She didn't even care that he was rich. She did it because someone needed help. But in the corner of her mind, a quiet hope bloomed. Maybe this would lead to something good. Maybe, for once, doing the right thing would pay off. She had no idea how wrong, or how right, that hope was about to be. By the next morning, Jasmine's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Texts. Mentions. A few news outlets even tried to contact her. "Are you the nurse from the crash? We'd love to hear your side of the story." She ignored them all. She wasn't trying to go viral. She just wanted to sleep, pay her bills, and maybe catch up on laundry. But when she clocked in for her shift at the hospital, the mood was off. Her supervisor, Ms. Connors, was waiting by the nurse's station, arms crossed, mouth tight, eyes colder than the break room freezer. "We need to talk." "My office." Jasmine followed, confused. Once inside, Connors didn't even sit. "We saw the video. You're all over the news. I was just trying to help." "That's not the point. You were acting outside hospital grounds. You're not authorized to administer care off-duty unless you're dispatched or on record." Jasmine blinked. "I saved a man's life. That's not your call to make. You're bound by policy, not personal judgment." Connors pulled out a clipboard, slid it across the desk. "We're placing you on administrative leave. Effective immediately." Just like that. No thank you. No praise. Just cold ink on paper and a door that now felt a whole lot heavier. As Jasmine walked out of the hospital, scrubs still smelling like antiseptic, hands still stained from the day before, she realized something painful. She had done everything right. And was still being punished. 2 days later, the call came. She knew before she even answered. No number saved. No. Hi, Jasmine. Just a cold, practiced voice from HR. We've reviewed your conduct. While your intentions may have been good, you violated hospital protocol by administering unsanctioned emergency care outside your scheduled duties. Jasmine sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the crack in her ceiling. So that's it? I save a life, and I get fired? The voice on the other end didn't flinch. You put the hospital at risk. Liability comes first. No severance. No benefits extension. Just her final paycheck and a warning not to speak to the media. On behalf of the facility. Jasmine hung up. Hands trembling. Mind racing. Chest heavy. She stared at her nursing license on the wall. The one she worked through 2 jobs and night school to earn. The one her mother cried over when she finally passed her boards. Gone. Just like that. Not because she failed. But because she chose to help. Her phone buzzed again. A new headline. Mystery nurse from crash still unidentified. Millionaire in recovery. Family releases no statement. Jasmine turned the phone off and set it down. No job. No justice. And the man she saved? Probably didn't even know she existed. Within a week, reality hit harder than any news headline ever could. Rent was due. Her student loan autopay bounced. The pharmacy called. Her mother's heart medication wasn't covered without active insurance. Jasmine sold her TV. Then her iPad. She even pawned her stethoscope, the one her late dad gave her after she passed her boards, just to buy groceries. Her car got booted on a Thursday morning after she missed 2 payments in a row. She watched from the window, phone in hand, knowing there was no one left to call for help. She applied for jobs, everywhere. Home health, clinics, even front desk at a dental office. No calls back. Every rejection stung a little deeper. Because all she could think about was that moment, the heartbeat returning under her hands, the flashing red lights, the EMT who told her. You just saved his life. And now? She couldn't even afford her own. Still, she didn't break down. Not publicly. She kept her head high when her neighbors asked if she was okay. She lied and said, Yeah, just between jobs. She told her mom. We'll figure it out. But inside? She felt invisible. Disposable. Like the world had moved on from her hero moment and left her behind in the silence. The story online faded as quickly as it had gone viral. A few local blogs ran updates about the mystery nurse. Speculation flew. She'll probably get a job offer. Or, she must be basking in praise. But Jasmine? She didn't comment. Didn't tweet. Didn't post a single word. When her best friend begged her to go public, to call out the hospital for injustice, Jasmine just shook her head. I didn't do it for attention. I did it because someone needed help. She turned down every interview request, deleted every email that started with exclusive opportunity, and kept her dignity when it would have been easier to burn everything down online. Even when she saw influencers trying to guess who the nurse was for clout, she stayed silent. Because Jasmine wasn't trying to prove anything. She just wanted to be seen for who she really was, not for the moment caught on camera, but for the heart behind it. And still, not a single word from the man she saved. No message. No letter. No thank you. As the days crawled on, she quietly accepted that maybe the world really does forget good people sometimes. But the universe? It hadn't forgotten her. And neither had he. By the end of the month, the headlines had vanished. The crash? Old news. The mystery nurse? Yesterday's hashtag. Even Grant Whitaker, the man she pulled from the wreckage, was back off the grid, just as private as he'd always been. No interviews. No public thank you. No mention of the woman who gave him a second chance at life. Jasmine watched it all fade from the background like a dream slipping through tired fingers. The viral moment that once made her heart flutter with hope had become nothing. Just another internet blip. Back to bills. Back to silence. Back to the job hunt. She even started temping part-time at a grocery store, wearing a name tag instead of a badge, stacking shelves instead of saving lives. And every night when she walked past the cracked frame holding her nursing license, she had to look away. Because the world had moved on. And it felt like it had left her behind. But then, the next morning, before the sun had even warmed the sidewalk outside her window, she heard it. A deep, echoing thud-thud-thud in the sky. Then a second one. Louder. She stepped outside barefoot, shielding her eyes, and saw 2 black helicopters descending slowly, right onto the empty field beside her building. The same field where kids played soccer. Where nothing ever happened. Until today. The ground vibrated as the helicopters touched down, blades whipping up dust and loose leaves in wild spirals across the field. Jasmine stood frozen on her porch, one hand on the railing, the other holding her breath. Neighbors peeked out from windows. Kids ran to the edge of the lot wide-eyed. Even a stray cat darted under a parked car for cover. The doors of the first helicopter swung open. Out stepped 2 sharply dressed assistants in black suits, followed by a man in jeans, boots, and a navy windbreaker. He took a step forward, removed his sunglasses, and Jasmine felt her knees go weak. It was Grant Whitaker. Alive. Fully recovered. And walking directly toward her. The second helicopter door opened, but no one came out yet. It just sat there, humming with quiet power, like it was holding something more. Grant stopped at the edge of her walkway. No cameras. No microphones. Just a man, deeply serious, looking her dead in the eye. Jasmine, he said softly. I believe I owe you a thank you, and a whole lot more. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. All she could do was stare. At the man whose life she'd saved. At the chopper he arrived in. At the moment she thought would never come. And in the distance? The neighbors recorded. The internet buzzed. The world started paying attention again. But this time? It wouldn't be about what she lost. It would be about everything she was about to gain. Grant climbed the 3 steps to Jasmine's porch like a man on a mission, slow, steady, eyes locked on hers with a look of quiet gratitude that no headline could ever capture. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small leather envelope. Inside was a folded letter. I wrote this the night I left the hospital, he said. But no one could track you down. You vanished. Jasmine blinked, stunned. I didn't vanish. I just went back to life. Grant smiled faintly. That's what made it hard. Most people would have run to the cameras. You didn't even leave a name. If it weren't for one of the paramedics remembering your badge clipped to your belt. He paused. Looked around at the neighbors gathering on their porches. Then back at her. May I speak to you privately? Jasmine hesitated, then stepped aside. Come in. The inside of her house was clean but bare. One couch. One bookshelf. A missing TV stand. Grant noticed it, but didn't comment. Instead, he handed her the letter. She opened it with trembling hands. It read, To the woman who gave me back my life. I don't know who you are yet, but I know what you did. And I won't rest until the world knows who you are, too. Tears welled in Jasmine's eyes. Not because of the words. But because, finally, someone saw her. Not just as a nurse. Not as a headline. But as a human being who made a difference. And then Grant nodded toward the second helicopter outside. That one's for you. Jasmine stepped outside slowly, the letter still in her hand, wind from the rotors tugging at her curls. Grant followed her down the porch steps, this time, not just a grateful man, but a man on a mission. A small press team had emerged from the second helicopter, just a handful of people with cameras and microphones, clearly prearranged but not for spectacle. Grant turned to them and raised his hand. I won't be long. Then, standing next to Jasmine, dust on his boots, wind in his jacket, he spoke clearly, voice steady enough for the whole neighborhood to hear. This woman right here saved my life. Not knowing who I was. Not knowing if anyone was watching. Not asking for credit. He turned to Jasmine and gestured for her to step forward. She lost her job for doing what no training manual could ever teach, choosing humanity over hesitation. And for that I don't just thank her. I honor her. The cameras clicked. Someone gasped. The entire block stood still. Grant looked straight into the lens of the main camera. Effective immediately, I've created a new healthcare fund in her name, the Jasmine Initiative, to protect and support medical professionals who act with compassion, even when policy fails them. He reached into his coat and handed Jasmine a document folder. Inside? An offer letter. Executive Director of Field Ethics and Training, Jasmine Initiative. 6 figures. Full benefits. Complete loan forgiveness. Home ownership grant. Jasmine's hands shook as she read it. She looked up at Grant. Why me? He smiled. Because you didn't save a millionaire that day, you saved a human. And the world needs more of that. Jasmine stared at the offer letter in her hands, so surreal, it almost felt like a prank. Except the embossed seal was real. The signature was real. And the man standing in front of her was very much alive because of her. She looked up overwhelmed. I'm not a CEO. I'm just a nurse. Grant shook his head gently. You're exactly the kind of person we need in charge. Someone who knows what it feels like to be unheard, and someone who listens anyway. Then he stepped aside and motioned toward the second helicopter, now prepped and waiting. You don't have to say yes right now. But I wanted you to know, this door's open. And it'll stay open for as long as you need it to be. The assistant next to him added softly. There's also a car outside for you. It's yours. Grant said your last one got towed. And we've already cleared your student loan debt. Check the last page. Jasmine flipped to the final page of the folder. Her eyes widened. Balance $0. She nearly dropped the entire thing. Neighbors clapped. One shouted, Girl, you better take that job. For the first time in what felt like forever, Jasmine laughed. A real, full laugh. The kind that rises from relief and gratitude, and a tiny flicker of, maybe I do deserve this. She looked at Grant. If I say yes, can I still be me? He smiled. We don't want anyone else. And just like that, the woman who had lost everything for doing the right thing had just been handed the opportunity of a lifetime, because she did the right thing. As the cameras finished rolling and the applause died down, one reporter stepped forward and gently asked, Jasmine, do you have anything you'd like to say? She paused, held the offer letter to her chest, looked around, at the helicopters, at her dusty porch, at the neighbors who'd seen her struggle silently for weeks. Then she stepped up to the mic. No notes. No rehearsed speech. Just heart. I didn't save him because I thought he was important. I saved him because he was human. Because that's what we're supposed to do when we see someone hurting, we help. She glanced at Grant, then back to the crowd. I lost my job for doing the right thing. And I'd do it again. Not because I expected a reward. She held up the letter. But because we don't need a paycheck to prove our worth. We need purpose. And people who believe in doing right, even when it costs us. The crowd was silent, hanging on her every word. Then she smiled, tears threatening to spill, but her voice never cracked. So if you've ever been overlooked, or pushed aside, or punished for caring, keep going. You never know who's watching. Or whose life you're changing just by showing up. Applause erupted. One of the kids nearby shouted, Miss Jasmine's a hero! And for the first time since that car crash, Jasmine didn't feel like a ghost in her own story. She felt seen, respected, and finally, free. As the helicopters lifted off and the sun broke through the clouds overhead, Jasmine stood tall. Not as a nurse who lost everything, but as a woman who earned it all back, with compassion, courage, and truth.